Welcome back to the Capes and Dice podcast, right here on capesanddice.com. I'm Justin.
I'm Paul.
We're here at a live studio audience. I would say live studio audience, but like, I'm gonna blow this out of proportion. But we're in Maine, snowing out, and people
This
don't.
is true.
For some reason, people don't want to travel in the snow. I mean, we got Jason here though.
We got Jason.
Jason's here. We got Danny.
We got Graham. Yep.
We got Drunk Mike. Iron Man's here. Stan Lee's here. I see Stan Lee.
Yeah,
over
Stan
there.
Lee's in the background. That's true.
No. But this episode is once again brought to you by Galactic Comics and Collectibles. We're actually here.
We are.
Galactic
We're live.
Galactic Comics
In
and
Galactic
Collectibles.com. Yeah, we're here for
Where you can
Comics
find
of the
a
Year.
website that I need to update.
Oh, where's your web person?
Yeah. Truth.
Comics of the Year, Paul.
Comics of the year, the top 10 comics of the year. Can you imagine? How did another year go by? Do you remember what last year's top 10 was?
No, but I do remember when we started doing this, you being like, oh crap, I got to read current comics.
I'd like to think I was better about it this year. I got some stuff done. I read. I really started early and kept an ongoing list all year. So I'm proud of myself. I really stepped up.
I know, I won't say it now, but I know what your number one is. So there's that.
I think everyone knows what my number one is. Yeah.
If you come into the comic book shop, you know.
Yeah, if you come in here, it's already.
To remind people, the classification of a comic book that came out in 2024 is at least 2 issues had to be released in 2024. I think we've done 3 issues, things like that. But there's this weird, like, if comics come out in November, and it's November and December, those qualify. If a comic comes out in October and the last issue hits in January, that's a tough one because, like...
Have I cheated 2 years? I think two different years I've cheated, yeah.
Like 1 issue came out,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you better... First of all, I said it better be on your list next year because that doesn't qualify for this year. So he's going to come back and be like, oh, that sucked. That wasn't it was a horrible issue, a horrible comic book, but...
This is, I believe, this year, I am legit. All books have come out in this year with all of the qualifications. So first, I think maybe the first time we've done this that I didn't cheat at all. Paul
also wants to let everybody know that they're all available in trade here.
Yes.
Every comic book he picked this year is available here. You have to be able to buy it here. No. Let's get into it then.
Just on the website.
Yeah. I'll read off my honorable mentions. We'll just fly through the honorable mentions to start off this thing.
Yeah,
so
I gotta figure out where my 10 is.
I have like 5 honorable mentions, which is a weird... because it ended up becoming a top 15, but I don't know. Midnight Shadows graphic novel from Dark Horse Comics, Zach Kaplan, and the Midnight Band, techno pop band, I don't know, synth band. Great comic book, great artwork on the inside. The Deviant from Image Comics, The Road graphic novel, which is the adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's book.
I still need to read that.
Yes. And The Displaced from Boom Studios, and the Blood Hunt mini-series of the story arc for Blood Hunt from Marvel.
Yep.
Those are my honorable mentions. What do you got going on?
All right, honorable mentions. I have Canary, and that just barely fell off my list. That was a Scott Snyder Dark Horse. Let's go horror western. I thought it was a great matchup. I also had Deviant. It was excellent read. Blood Hunt, same. Didn't make my top 10, but on the list. This year, technically, it did come out. Was A Haunted Girl. Yeah. That just fell off my top 10. I absolutely love Haunted Girl, so shout out to that. It was in my top 10 last year. And then I had one of these Rick Remender Sacrificers series I need to catch up on, but I thought was worth mentioning. So there's my honorable mentions of the year.
It's funny, too, because I thought about it as you were reading those, that it's easier to pick a top 10 when you only read 20 comics, like 20 different series in a year.
Yeah.
But when you're like going into it being like, I got to read a lot more this year because I got to get into this top 10 mode.
Right.
You're like, well, then you end up reading 100 comic books and then you have to try to whittle down which ones you liked.
Yeah, which ones you really liked. And I mean, I do research for this stuff too. I go in and I see other people's opinions of things and go, okay, well, now I need to read that. That is not how I made those. The phone hasn't rung for like, what, 3 hours, 4 hours? So I went in and I'll say, okay, and then maybe I missed that. Maybe I need to read that. Let's give this and give it around. So,
yeah, I
mean, I think it's good. It's a good thing.
So from here on out, what we do is I'll read 10, 9, 9. Well, no, you read 10. Then I'll read 10, so that I get never last pick.
Oh, that's how it is. Now we see.
So Paul will do his number 10. By the way, first of all, before we get into this, your voice, did you record that when you were in high school?
Somebody, you're not the only person to say that. So my buddy Joe was in one day and the thing went off and Joe goes, who the hell is that anyways? I said, it's me. And he goes, no, that's not you. He goes, you need to do that again. Yeah.
It sounds like you're 6, dude. It's like... your 3-year-old Paul Eaton recording. One of these days, I'm going to comic shop.
Well, the answering machine is old enough to be when I was 6. So, you know.
Who has an answering machine nowadays?
Galactic Comics.
Which is actually kind of funny because I don't even think my work has an answering machine. If the phone rings, they just
Right.
no one picks
Well,
it up.
see, I mean, I get back to people. I make sure. So,
I will tell you right now, if you call here, he does look at caller ID. So if he doesn't want to talk to you, he won't talk to you.
That's not true, kind of. All right. So, number 10 is a Marvel. I go with Al Ewing's Immortal Thor. And that was one that made the list later. I said, okay, I got to try this. I haven't read it. And you know what? It gave me all of my love of the God of Thunder back. This brought me back to, like, the olden days and his epic battles with monsters. And he's back to controlling and being the king. And, man, I just loved it. I was like, I didn't realize how much I missed Thor until reading Immortal Thor.
I just have a problem with the fact that they're using this Immortal thing. Like, okay, Immortal Hulk was a hit, so let's do it with Thor.
Is it that, or is they just like valuing rights as Immortal?
Well, yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. We're gonna have Immortal Daredevil next.
Is his name now the Immortal Al Ewing?
It should be. I'd sign off on that.
That's
so,
the only reason.
There you go. There's my top 10 goes to Immortal Thor.
Or 10. 10 is the writer from Dark Horse Comics, and the Berkowitz brothers, along with Josh Gad. Yes, Olaf himself. Which is kind of funny. So this book is like relies a lot on Jewish history, like old school comic book telling, storytelling. The main character protagonist looks like Josh Gad, which is also kind of funny. It's like the Keanu, it was a Berserker.
Yeah, Berserker with
where
Keanu
Reeves looks like the main character. It's like, oh, are they setting it up for that? If they end up making a movie of this as no other option, but
what if he doesn't get cast as that?
It's like obviously Keanu Reeves is gonna be Berserker. Like, is Josh Gad gonna play the protagonist, and this becomes a movie or a TV show? But it's also it's proof that, again, I think there's this crossover between comics and movies and comics and TV and comics and things that there's people that are writing or acting in comic or TV shows and movies that can write comics. Oh, yeah, and they're not all writing them all. So let's be honest. Like, Josh Gad probably did a plotting, character creation, things like that, and then the Berkowitz brother actually did the script and all that stuff. So there is that side of it. But like, yeah, it was a fun book. And if you the Jewish culture, it's for. I mean, it's for them.
Sure.
But I think it's a fun book, and I think that again, Dark Horse killed it this year for me, and I think that number 10 is the writer.
Very nice. Very nice. This is gonna be annoying. I have to unlock my phone every single time. All right, number 9. I go Kill All Immortals.
Oh, look at that!
Also
Zach
from Dark
Kaplan.
Horse Comics. Yeah, Zach Kaplan. So I mean, I have a little bit of love, anyways, for anything that's like Viking culture. That's some of my heritage. But I think this does a great job of showing you some of the like old Viking lore mixed with the action adventure and stuff in modern time. Absolutely love Kill All Immortals, and is made in my top 10 of the year.
That's a fun one. I'll tell you that much. That's
really great read for anybody that's looking for a good action adventure.
I mean, I don't know if you guys like the name Kill All Immortals just sounds like you want to read that. You want to know more. Whether I want to read all 5 issues or you want to read anything, it's just like you want to know, like, what the hell is this all about?
Oh man, and the cover's been great too. Just
so you have an Immortal thing. Is your list the Immortal Paul Eaton list this year?
Yes.
Dark Horse is number 9 for me. Into the Unbeing from another Zach.
Oh, I gotta
Zach
read
Thompson.
That. Yep.
And Hayden Sherman. I was gonna say Sheridan, but it's no Sherman. A book that is a post-apocalyptic style book, but deals with like climate crisis, so like the end of the world basically due to climate crisis. And you can tell through the whole book that it like both these writers and these artists are writing from a point of passion, a point of like caring about the earth they live on, so on and so forth. And Zach's a Canadian, so obviously he's nice.
He has to be. That's a requirement, unless they're playing hockey.
It's a beautifully illustrated book too, and it's Dark Horse is committed to it because it's the first 4 issues were Into the Unbeing Part 1.
Right. Part 2 starting
comes
up,
out
right?
in January,
Yeah.
and so there's like this. We're going to commit to this part of it. It's all good, Jason. It's all good. No. So yeah, Into the Unbeing Part 1. I
Just
should
don't
say.
start calling Galactic over and over again, so that keeps going on.
It's gonna be Brock.
That's not my name.
But yeah, Into the Unbeing at number 9. I think we're gonna fly through numbers 10 through 6, and then we'll maybe dive in a little bit more at issue 5.
deep
just
into
'cause,
them.
That's where the real.
Yeah, the meat of it
progress
all
is.
is. All right, well, this one's a bit of a cop-out, I'm going to tell you right now. So I did...
TMNT number 1 because you have a store variant of it. Is it really?
No.
I was gonna say, wow, I guess
I
that.
did. So I did Energon Universe, okay?
Okay.
Because I didn't want to have the, like Duke and Cobra Commander and like. So I just did Energon Universe because I really felt like it wrote me in with everything, and I'm a GI Joe guy, so this was really easy. I was gonna read Duke, I was gonna read Cobra Commander, but I was so like into the universe. I said, you know what, I got to read Void Rivals now, even though originally it wasn't really on my radar, and I ended up loving that too. I think Void Rivals was a fun read. It gave us like, I don't know, I compared to Saga without all of the extra stuff.
Yeah.
But you're still getting some of that Energon tie-in universe stuff. So rather than saying I got Duke here, I got Cobra Commander there, I just did Energon universe. There you go.
I can see it. I mean, it was when I was talking to people about books. I'm always like, it's Clown in the Cornfield is one of my favorite books of all time. But I'm always like, well, I like 2, and I like Clown in the Cornfield 3.
Right.
It's like the whole series of it you should read, not just one book.
I actually started volume 1 of that.
So yeah, I can see that. It's the same thing with, Graham would know about like Stephen King's Holly Gibney. It's like Holly Gibney as a character is in like 7 different books.
I was gonna say, how you can do like Dark Tower series.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you
so
just can't say the series.
I can see that. It's my second year in a row with picking a graphic novel, like a straight ahead graphic novel, because that does qualify.
Yeah,
as obviously it comes
100%.
out together. Houses of the Unholy from Image Comics. Brubaker and Phillips. Can't go wrong with those names.
They're
names
killer.
in general, so I could just leave it at that and just drop the mic and say we're fine. However, it's a crime thriller horror. And so like that to me was just a phenomenal one. And it was cool because I, as a person who runs like Capes and Tights and the website and all that stuff, I do a lot of reviews. I have access to a NetGalley account too as a media member. And so I get to read some things ahead of time. And because a graphic novel is a bookstore thing, I get to read that ahead of time. So I was able to read that not like a week ahead of time like I get comic books. I was able to read that like 6 months ahead of time.
Nice.
And I absolutely loved it. So Houses of the Unholy. And the hardcover and the words that are in red and their foil.
Killer.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's
so
unbelievable.
that's number 8 for me.
Fun part for that too is like most of their stuff tends to be very like ground level.
Yes.
So it's interesting to go into a horror side. That's been very.
But it's just like
different.
now at this point, like, can they do anything on their own? Ed Brubaker's gonna do this thing, but Sean Phillips is not gonna be there. Like, well, I don't want to read it then. That's not my thing.
Right. All right. So then I go back to the Marvel Universe for Ultimate Spider-Man.
Dude. No, you're great. It's just crazy because I think in the past I've wanted to do these lists of being like, let's do top 10 independent comics or something like that because it was so hard to pick.
Yes.
Marvel comics. I do think you've done this well with doing Ultimate because
I don't like last year I had very few Marvel books, I think. So Ultimate Spider-Man got me. I got as far as the shop goes, that's got to be one of our highest selling single comics of the year. It went to what the hell did that go to like 8th printing for number 1 or something like that. Like it just kept back out, but every time I turned around, I had to order more because we're out of them.
Well, you don't have any on the shelf right now, but that's just because Diamond didn't deliver them.
Yeah, that's a whole different problem. Yeah, thank you, Diamond Comics. But Ultimate Spider-Man, the hype was huge in here. Every time I turned around, we had more people joining the store, joining the pull list, and really joining the comic community because of what they heard about Ultimate Spider-Man. So I said, well, obviously, I've got to read this thing too. But I couldn't get my hands on any realistically until the trade came out. And it made my list. It got me. The modern Spider-Man stuff has not been really great in my humble opinion.
Marvel stuff. So like it's just
Well,
but if you're going to pick a new modern Marvel thing, Spider-Man, and having be it that Spider-Man is the one that does it well.
Yes.
is awesome. I love that thing, and I think it was proof that they honestly made a mistake killing off the Ultimate Universe, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, here it is. It's coming back around with a new take on it, and I thought it was great to return to a Spider-Man story. And it's different. It's not your same old Spider-Man story. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. It's got a slow burn, but I enjoyed the slow burn. I'm in for the ride. So.
I've been a Marvel, but I think it's one of those things that like you grow as a human being, and so like when I first started coming to the shop, I was a Marvel zombie through and through. It was like
the first book club. I think you had everything from Marvel phone casing to Marvel socks to Marvel underwear.
But it was just Marvel.
Now I'm wearing a Marvel hat, and Marvel shoes. So I don't know.
It's not just Marvel. It's not just the independent comic books have been on a rise. It's also that Marvel had been on a decline. And
I agree.
And I sound like I'm 38, but I sound like an old crotchety old man. Like, I remember the old days. Comics are what they used to be. But like, it's true. And for a while, and I think a lot of people understand that there hasn't been a crossover, and that's why on my honorable mentions there was the Blood Hunt.
Yep.
But I honestly think that like if you just did the Energon.
Yeah.
If I said the new Ultimate Marvel Universe as a whole,
just do all of it.
That could be in that system. So you said Spider-Man, but like, let's be honest. Ultimate Black Panther's been very good.
Yep.
The Ultimates have been really good.
Ultimate X-Men has a huge
Ultimate Invasion was that one shot that came out. It was all good. So I think it's a future that's bright for Marvel in that sense. But number 7 for me, Magma Comics makes their way onto our list. First time that's obviously, I mean, they've been around for a little while, but like they haven't been so prominent as they are in
Right.
2024. And that is with The Pedestrian from our boy Joy
great.
Esposito, who lives here in Maine, where we're
Yep.
from, and Sean Von Gorman. This book, I think the biggest was the wow factor of just like, what the fuck am I looking at? What am I seeing? What am I reading? You know, when we got the initial preview of this, both of us,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of like sent each other a message being like, what is this gonna be? And then we read the first issue. I'm like, still, what is this gonna be?
Still
What
don't
is
know
going
what this
on?
is.
And I think that was cool because I think one of the biggest things I talked to other creators in the podcast here is I want something unique, something that draws me out of the normal. And I think that there's a lot of one of the reasons why maybe I got stagnant on Marvel was just a repetitive same thing over and over again.
Because, yeah,
and
it's
with
hard.
independent comics, they're just going everywhere. And this Pedestrian was just like, where do some of these creators get this stuff? And so the Pedestrian having this like visitor that visits this small community that's just helping out, but then it goes. That's not even a way to. That's how to explain like issue 1.
Well, it's so funny because like I had my sales pitch Pedestrian with people were, this is the top book you've got to read, but I don't know why. I can't tell you why you need to read it. I can tell you I read it, but you need to read this book, but I don't know why. It's not even so much, at least in the first round, it's not even about the Pedestrian. It's about the community around him, but you're roped in, you're interested.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So number 7,
Great
the
pick.
Pedestrian, Magma Comics.
great pick. And I feel bad for it didn't make my list, but I thoroughly enjoyed that book.
Well, it's to say it's one of. It's also I think it could be a polarizing comic book. I think it's one of those things
yeah.
that someone can say, oh, it's top 10 book of the year, and someone can come up to you and be like, well, it's top 10 worst book of the year because of how such a off the wall
It's so different.
style book
Yeah,
that I
it's
can
so
understand why
different.
someone wouldn't want it. But like Sean Von Gorman does a great job with it, and again, gotta give love to Mainer, Joey Esposito. But
What are we on, number 6?
yeah, here in
Number 6. I go with Farrell. I love
that book sucked.
yeah, right.
I just wanted to get a reaction out of Jason over there.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
I love it. Tony Fleeks brings it back around. Stray Dogs, like, absolutely loves the Stray Dogs run. And we met Tony years ago, and he goes, "Well, now I'm working on something with cats." And my first thought was like, "How many times are we gonna can we do this? How many times
Next
can
is
we do
Gerbils.
this?" Right.
The one after
Right.
that.
Next. Yeah, we-
Squirrels.
yeah.
Yeah, I like the squirrel.
I'm like, how many
idea.
times can we do this and keep it interesting, keep it fun, keep it different? And yet Farrell comes out and bam, right off. I think I like Farrell more than I like Stray Dogs.
There is that.
I loved it.
Yeah, there is that side of the thing, and I think that there's by saying it's just cats, it's not Silence of the Lambs meets All Dogs Go to Heaven with cats. It's literally a completely different story.
Whole new story. It's almost got the zombie vibe going. You know, and the characters are different. It's not the same as Stray Dogs was. I feel like there's actually more like character development in Feral than there was in Stray Dogs. Versus Stray Dogs hit really quick with the like, this is from the perspective of dogs. It hasn't been done before. And Feral is more like a deep dive, I feel like, into the characters.
Yeah.
So Feral is my top.
It's also an ongoing series, so that's the other part about it. Is like where
Yeah,
we get
I
Stray
think that
Dogs, we got to
helps.
find it in 5 issues, whereas we're now into volume 2.
Feral.
Feral.
Yeah.
Can't say enough about both those books. They're genius. Incredible. Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
Jason loves it too. I mean, I
See?
think that's a big. That to me is. I mean, that's just that's perfect. Jason loves it too. So.
Yeah, see, we got a sealed deal. Right, it has to be. If it's got both of our seal of approval.
I mean, number 6 for me is Pyongyang. No, just kidding. I guess that's a kind of an inside joke for
That
the
might
book
be an
club
inside joke,
That
yeah.
doesn't actually fit. Yeah, exactly. Number 6 is another graphic novel for me. 2 graphic novels make this year's
Holy
list.
smokes.
And Paul Eaton is going to collapse here on the floor. We got to get the hospital, the
boy.
ambulance here ready.
Just called 911 already.
It's a DC comic.
What? How do I have Marvel on my list and yet you've got the DC
At
on
number
yours?
6. Not
At
even just on
number
my
6?
list. Number
Yeah, it's
6.
not, yeah, it wasn't like you just mentioned it.
This Land is Our Land, a Blue Beetle story from Julio Anta and Jacoby Salcedo.
Yeah.
This book is a coming-of-age origin story for Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle. So I'm not a big DC fan, as most people know. I don't know a lot of DC horror or DC lore. I mean,
I thought you were a big DC fan. I thought that was like your jam.
And so to me, it was like getting back into something like Blue Beetle is not obscure character, but not a Superman, Batman.
It's not the Trinity of DC you think
Yes,
of.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah, sure.
having this origin story and having this ability to read this story based in true events, too, real events, racism, following the news too much, both left and right, just listening to the internet too much, all of that in this one encapsulating graphic novel.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal. I'm a big
That's great.
fan of Jacoby Salcedo from It's Only Teenage Wasteland, so that's the reason why I even read it in the first place.
Right.
So we'll give that caveat. Yeah, that's why. See, DC Comics is where I always go to the DC first and then say, okay, what do I want to read after DC? No, because of Jacoby Salcedo doing the art on this book, I need to do this. And they won an Eisner Award for Frontera,
Yes.
which is a young adult graphic novel they did together, the two of them, Anta and Salcedo. So that's what drew me into it. But then when I got into it, I'm like, dude, this is phenomenal. I just couldn't put it down.
I think it's great that a YA made your top 10. Like, that's awesome.
Well, you know what? Listen,
See?
I am 38, but I'm 17 at heart.
I think 17's a stretch, but all right, sure.
You know, the
I always tell people,
best thing about young adult novels, graphic novels, is I get older, they stay the same age. No?
no.
Is that not how? Is that the
I
quote?
don't- yeah.
No? Okay. Not that that's the appropriate quote that ever should have been told ever in that movie ever.
No.
But, you know.
All right.
You're at number five.
Number 5. All right, well, I'm going to go for a little visual effects on this one here. For anybody
Don't
watching.
take your pants off, please.
What, again?
Well, do you remember that? Do you ever see the episode of The Office where they're recording the meeting because Michael's on vacation, and it's not a video recording, it's just an audio recording, and they're saying, "Dwight, why are you taking your shirt off? Dwight, you have a Muppets BB? Yes, you have Animal the Muppets on your ass." No, we have video here. We can prove that Paul has his clothes on right now.
Yes. Yes, the clothes stayed on this time. All right, number 5.
So you did do it.
I did do it. Yes, I did. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All right, well, let's cover some. Yes, fine. We have our Galactic Comics exclusive TMNT number 1 with our buddy Bob Takic.
Hold up again.
Hold it up.
On sale now. GalacticComicsCollectibles.com. Sales pitch over here.
That's actually on the website too.
Free for all of our listeners. No.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe not.
On the website.
It still says, it's got a little guy with a shovel, and it says
in
under
pro-
construction.
Yeah, in progress. We're working on it. Yeah, still waiting for the AOL to finish up downloading it.
I think you can buy the Superman trade paperback on there. I think you can buy Frontiers.
that is on there, yeah.
I think all the trades that Paul has way too many of are on there.
Yeah, those are all there. All right, so TMNT. All right, first of all,
So,
let's,
yes.
I mean, obviously, right? I'm a Ninja Turtle guy. I love turtles. I grew up with turtles. The fact that we restarted, I think, was a good push. I think it's hard to deep dive into a comic series that's been out for a really long time, right? Like, if you're new and you're coming in and you see TMNT number 147 on the shelf, you go, I can't start here. Where do I even begin?
Yes.
So here
It
you
went
go.
150, right? It went 150.
150.
Issues. It was the longest. The run before this was the longest run of TMNT in history,
Yeah, ever. Yep.
and they decided to come out with number 1 again.
So we start off, and issue 1 kicks you right off with Raph. And in each issue going forward, you get another, like, completely honed in issue on a turtle. And I loved it. I think it's a great setup. Fantastic storyline.
Great variant covers.
Yes. It's
Schmalke has a good variant cover for it, actually.
Smokey has some awesome variant covers for it. Yes, he
no,
does.
I can see that. So it's one of those also discussions we've had every year. Like I think last year you had Something's Killing the Children on your list.
Yeah.
Which is one of those ones. The problem is I don't think about it until we start talking,
Right.
and you start saying something where I'm like, oh shit, I guess a continuous series can actually be
Can
comic
actually
of
go
the
on.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a comic book that's on 37 could actually be comic book of the year because
It's best
it's not
book,
saying
best
new
series.
series. It didn't say
Right.
new series. It didn't say mini series. It didn't say anything. It's so one of those things that like we just talked about. Like if you know Poison Ivy's on issue 26, it could be your comic book of the year.
Yeah.
The other side of it is I completely forgot about the reboot of it.
Right.
And like it's one of those things that like now I can like let's sit there, let's just re-record this whole thing because I'll get my up TMT.
And now I gotta put Ninja Turtles
Spoiler
on
alert,
here.
it's not on my list, and,
Right.
and that's not because it's
Yeah.
not good. I mean, you know,
Started this year, and it's like.
Greg Katzman from IDW is gonna be very pissed that it's not on my list right now. I'm gonna email
See, I
him,
got
Greg.
you. I got you guys covered.
I got Greg's gonna email me now and tell me that it's not on my list, but no, I can see that top 5. It makes sense.
You think Kevin Eastman's going to send you an email about this?
Kevin Eastman? No, he'll charge me
Is he
for an
watching?
email. That's we had to pay that. We had to do this because I had Kevin Eastman on last year or 2 years ago. So we had to promote TMNT for the rest of our lives now because he was on for 15 minutes. No,
Yeah, who are your sponsors? I mean,
Galactic Comics and Collectibles. Galactic Comics and Collectibles.com.
are those your only ones? They don't affect the list at all?
No.
No,
it's just
I'll
us.
say that this episode is brought to you by Orno Brewing Company too because they supplied the beverages for this thing. Beverages drawn by Liana Kangas for episode 200.
Love it,
Right here.
Liana.
Yes, it's
Crushing
awesome.
it as always.
Yes,
it's so
beautiful, beautiful art. Number 5. Feral. Tony
Oh!
Fleece and Trish Forstner. I fell into that. Again, Here's my short statement on it. Raby zombie cats.
Yeah.
Period.
Done.
If only that covered it, though. I mean,
It does. And so rabies zombie cats from the creators of Stray Dogs. To me, like that was like if I ever had to explain it to someone who's read Stray Dogs, I'm like, that's you. Like that's you. So Tony is a phenomenal artist, but somehow has also weaved his way into writing an amazing career for him too, because Stray Dogs, Feral, Local, and there's all these different the things that he's written. It's the same thing I think with Scotty nowadays too. Scotty's done some phenomenal things in the writing side of things, and I think that
100%. Yeah.
some of these people we've talked to have like they have a bunch of stories to tell, and they can't illustrate them all.
No, there's
Can't
enough
do
time
both.
in the day
So
to try to do
writing
that.
a story is a lot not easier, but a little bit more less time consuming than illustrating a story.
Yeah.
And so having his ability to actually let Trish do all the illustrations, him write the story and do the stuff, and Feral's amazing, and I think Feral's one of those ones that actually took over for Local Man because Local Man ended or
Yep.
hiatus.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, we don't want to say it ended.
But he chose between two.
Yeah.
And it was Tim Seeley and him.
I don't
that-
know how some of these creators, I don't know how they can possibly do as much as they do.
Well, they do, and they chose. He
You-
said,
you
"I
look
need,
at-
I need
you
to
look at
cancel.
the-
I need to
the new comic shelf, and it's just like the
Yes.
3, 4, or 5 from the same creator. I'm like, how,
I need to put on
how
hold.
do you have the time
I
to
need
do
to put on
this?
hold this series, and he decided Local Man was that series, and that Feral wasn't the one. And that to me spoke something.
Yeah.
That he believes in it more, and I think there's more to tell in that story, and there's more to tell in that world. And Feral made number 5, and it's not because there's a pull quote on the back of it. It's from me.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Does every single one of yours have a full
let's
quote?
see. That's a no pedestrian. No, I don't know about pedestrian yet.
We don't know about Pedestrian yet. Yeah, it hasn't gone to print for trade
no.
yet. For
Just
all
Feral
of
so
you
far.
listening that are part of the Galactic Comic Book Club group, we're going to be doing Pedestrian next year. I'm excited. 2025.
they would know that if they were here.
That's true. That's true. Well, they could start doing the book club
So
from
I will
away,
say,
like
when we
be
talked
part
about
of
this
it, read
earlier,
it with
but
us.
you weren't here, Jason, is that I got a text message from Emma, one of our book club members, at 12:37 in the morning. Is tonight the recording for the podcast?
At least they're
And
excited.
I'm thinking
Like, at
to
least
myself,
Emma's
like,
excited.
well,
She's
first
like,
of
oh,
all,
man.
there's a chance I was up because I have an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old. So there was a chance that I was up, not because I didn't go to bed yet, but because I woke up in the middle of the night. My phone goes on Do Not Disturb at like 9, so I'm not like ever gonna get these messages anyway.
My phone's on Do Not Disturb always.
Yeah, and so I was like,
That made it sound I did it with a hammer.
12:37. I also go again. I'm 38. Emma's not. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking to myself, like 12. I don't remember the last
in
time. I
our
was-
world, to Emma, it's like 7.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, like, when was the last time I was up at 12:37 in the morning on purpose? So, but Emma was working. That's the reason.
Has it
she's
been
not
this
here.
decade?
Yeah.
I'd stay up that late and brood.
Do you have a spot in the city that you sit over like Batman? You lean over a rooftop?
I'm not going to tell you where it is.
Okay, well, that's fair.
No.
You don't want a line to have to start. You don't want to wait for somebody else to get done brooding so you
Thanks,
can.
Danny.
There we go. Danny is out. Coming to you live from
Okay,
Galactic Comics.
our only Superman fan is now leaving. So.
Yep. Oh, man, and to think Superman was my top book, and he's going to be here to hear
Wait,
it.
Superman still have comics out?
I don't know. Who's Superman?
You guys are shameful.
Go, Superman.
Danny, Superman.
All right.
Are you on number 4 already?
Number 4 already. Yeah, this is we're flying through these, really. So, number 4 was one of our book club books of the year.
Was it books of the year or books that came out this year? Because we didn't do a book of the year yet.
Okay,
We should.
yeah, we should. We should
That'd
do
be
what's
great.
the best book club book we
what
read
was our
this
favorite
year.
book?
Yeah,
Let's do
holy
that.
hell.
Let's remember to do that at the holiday party. We'll throw a little. Everybody
Yeah.
write their favorite on the thing. And we'll do it. We'll
Can
say
we
that
even
was the book
remember
of
which books we read this year?
the- And then we'll put it up on the shelf over here.
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be
this is
great.
A book club's favorite book of the year that we read. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. All right, so my book is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
See, there you go.
Yep. What else can you say about this book? So, is it an original story? No, it's a murder mystery, right?
Yeah.
But the artwork is phenomenal, and the telling of the story coming from the perspective really of a children's story.
Mm-hmm.
It was just it just grabs you and sucks you in. So Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, I just loved. I don't know, it was such a unique telling of the story, and I love to find out that it's going to continue.
Yes.
We're going to go on to another volume and continue with these characters, and I think that would be great too, because I want to see more of what's going on in this town and what these people are about. What has Sam been doing, the main character, to try to cover up what she does in her spare time? So
She's like
That's one of those
Ed
books where
Gein.
when I describe it to people, I'm like, I don't want to tell you too much about this. I just want you to read.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
one of those things. That hard. I think the slogan for it was like Dexter meets Richie Scary.
Yeah.
Is like a good. My brother is a huge fan of those like comparison things.
Yeah.
I'm usually like, how do you do that? And there's only been a few. I think Stray Dog saying it wasn't. What was the one? All Dogs Go to Heaven. It was Lady and the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp.
Meets Something's Killing. No, it meets Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of
Really,
the Lambs.
just take the
And those
your,
two things, I'm like,
your Disney
there's
universe.
very
for
few
Stray
where
Dogs,
I'm
and
like,
there
that
it
is
goes.
spot on. And I
Yeah.
think that Richard Scarry meets Dexter is literally like, he said, I want to make a comic book that's Richard Scarry meets Dexter. I made a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like I made this comic book. What's it like? It was literally like, I love Richard Scarry as a kid, and I love Dexter, so I'm now going to make a comic book.
And
off
I
of
love the
and
fact that IDW said, "Yeah, we'll go with this."
well, I don't even think, like I said, Greg's going to be pissed at me again, the marketing communications person from IDW, but I don't even think they understood what we had.
No.
I don't think that anybody understood what this comic was, how hot it was going to be.
Well,
and so on
it's
and
yeah,
so
it
forth,
was.
like-
It's I don't know. It's funny because, like we said, original storyline. No, it's a murder mystery.
Yep.
But in the grand scheme of things, I've never seen anything else like this.
No, and no one can because it ends up being copying. So you have Stray Dogs. We talked
Yeah.
about Feral.
Yep.
Stray Dogs is its own animal.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Ha!
And Beneath the Trees. Like I feel like anybody who comes after this and tries to do a similar thing,
Now
or
it's
just
copying
immediately
Beneath the
assume that.
Trees.
So I just watched the Ed Gein. I'm super into serial killer right now.
Yeah,
I just watched the
same,
Ed Gein
yeah.
thing, and when the guy who made the Ed Gein movie.
Yeah.
Like this a movie came out in 2000 called Ed Gein. He left out certain parts that are actually part of the story, but that were used in Silence of the Lambs. And Silence of the Lambs was based loosely off of
that.
the Ed Gein character.
Right.
And he solely left him out of the movie because people would assume that he was copying Silence of the Lambs. Even though it's part of the original
actual
actual
story.
story.
Right.
He was like, someone's going to immediately say, I think it might have been when he puts this mask or the face on his face.
Yeah.
Is that in Silence of the Lambs or the Red Dragon? Whatever. One of the movies is like he does this thing. And I think they would basically made Ed Gein not wear the face mask in the movie of skin because it had been in a different movie. And he's like, I don't want people to think I'm copying it.
Right.
So anybody that comes out of an anamorphic serial killer style story,
Done.
you're immediately going to
almost-
assume that it's
yeah.
copying this book. And so
Any
like,
any anamorphic thing that comes out now, I think
Yeah.
that is in that same vein is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to do a horror,
Yeah.
you're going to go, oh, so
Or
it's
a
just
kid's
it's
story.
just Beneath the Trees when nobody sees meets Poltergeist.
the
It's gonna be no matter
animation
what.
being kids oriented and
Yeah.
the story being adult oriented, that in general I think is just now
You're immediately going to say
Tony,
yeah.
Trish, and Patrick have now taken that whole thing out
Yeah,
of the market.
agreed.
So,
And I mean, crushed it. So good.
minor, I'm going to say this for you. Number 4, from the world of minor threats, Barfly. So it's Barfly.
Barfly.
So I had this little discussion before we started recording about how it should be called Barfly from the world of minor threats.
Yep.
Because I hate the idea that every comic book now that's in the world of minor threats now says that from the world of minor threats.
I never know. So I type up the
Yeah.
the list of the week. Here's your comics coming out. And I don't know what the hell do I put this as?
I think it's just
like
Barfly.
I got this giant name, but I don't want to just put Barfly because I'm afraid people are gonna be like, what the hell is that?
So
Like, well,
Barfly is by the god. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell him now. The
Whoa.
god, Kyle Starks, who
Wow.
again is another one of those people who has started their comic book world, their journey as an incredible illustrator in comics, and then have moved on to I want to tell a bunch of stories and do a bunch of things. And I don't have time to illustrate it all, so I'm going to write some stuff. And have come on to write Peacemaker Tries Hard, which was phenomenal.
I can't wait to read that. That is on my to read list.
You know, and so like there's I Hate This Place was phenomenal.
Yes.
And then you have this Barfly comic book that was created by Jordan Bloom and Pat Oswald, and then handed over the keys basically the stories to Barfly to Kyle Starks and artist Ryan Brown,
Love
who was
Ryan.
phenomenal.
Yep.
And it's basically this character in the first Minor Threats series. It's just called Minor Threats. It's in the background of the bar when you're sitting at the bar, and his name is Shit Eater, and he's a fly, and he doesn't speak. He's a fly.
Yeah.
He just buzzes around, and his whole book is based around the barfly.
Right.
And they wanted to call it Shit Eater, but
Yeah.
Dark Horse was like, eh.
Probably not gonna put that on the
so
shelf.
they did a variant, I think, for New York Comic Con that had Shit Eater as the title instead
Nice.
of Barfly. But yeah, he's this side character that everybody loves. When reading the first series, like, let's write a whole series about.
It's like that character in the background of the canteen at Star
So-
Wars, and you're
so
like, oh, we got to know about
Do
this
you
guy.
know in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, there's the scene where they throw the bagel.
Yes.
Hits the guy in the head and it says bagel.
Yeah.
There's multiple times of those jokes in this comic book where the illustration and the lettering and the artist have gone through and done these things that were like you have to read it and you go, oh my god, that's hilarious. There's posters in the background. There's things that are just, it's a funny comic book, and I do think that funny comic books are polarizing. There's this weird thing. Comedy is not horror, in my opinion. There's levels of horror.
Yeah.
Like there's like, you know, Terrifier, and then there's like your basic horror movie. You know what I mean? Like there's these difference. However, horror is horror, in my opinion. Comedy is not just comedy, in my opinion. There's different genres and avenues for comedy. I think that comic books, one of the reasons why you see, I mean, I don't think it's a fun. Is there? I mean,
so I was just
look
gonna
at your list
say
right here.
there really aren't very many comedy style comic books out there anymore.
It's so hard to find a giant group of people that will laugh at this one style of comedy.
Right. They can do this
I think
joke.
that in comic books, if you say horror comic books, most horror comic book fans are going to read most horror comics.
Most horror fans, if they come in, they go, "Oh, I want to try comic books," and I go, "Oh, I'm into horror." Okay, terrific. Well, here's a whole genre of horror comics. They're gonna find something, no problem.
And so this being a comedy in a world that's not really a comedy, Minor Threats has this comedy aspect, a superhero world, all that stuff. I don't know. There's something about this comic book, and I think that again, the artwork is Ryan Brown's phenomenal. I love Ryan Brown's artwork, and him throwing these jokes in there. And there's times where he basically said, I think we threw too many jokes in there. I'm like, no, you didn't.
You throw more
it's
in.
Perfect, in my opinion. So Minor Threats is just, yeah, it's perfect in my, it's number 4. I don't know why it's not number 1 for me,
Right?
honestly. But
Wow, that's impressive. All right, so shameless plug. Kyle Starks is God. Galacticon 2025 is coming. Kyle, Justin's throwing out the word God for you. Like, come on, man. Make the drive. Make the flight. Make the something. Come on up here.
they're not a sponsor, not a paid sponsor.
No. Galacticon is not a paid
I'll have to
sponsor.
blur that out.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we own it, so.
Okay, okay, hold on.
Wait, we don't have Lance's approval for this. Lance is the third person.
Okay, hold on. Okay, this is the Galacticon donation bin. I'll take the $6 now. That was the sponsorship for that.
Wait, that's all the money we had for the show.
Galacticon, May 31st, if you're living in the New England area.
Hell, if you
Galacticon.
don't, make the trip. It's gonna be awesome.
So Minor Threats, number 4.
Minor Threats number 4. Number 3. And it's funny because you did a comedy and I do a comedy. I Hate Fairyland. Wait, what? Oh my God, it's on my list again.
That's
I'm sorry, I love it. Okay.
bullshit.
Hey, it's ongoing. It's as good as it was. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so I've still enjoyed it. Every time I Hate Fairyland comes out, I grab my copies. I'm still loving it. It's fun.
I love it.
love
I'm not saying this. I don't think it's
following
nearly
Gwen.
as good as
I
it
think
was.
it's funny.
I think it's great.
Okay. Wow. All right. I think the jokes are still there. I still enjoy it. I still love it.
No, nothing as good as. I mean, Gertrude's Bush. I mean, that's
God, the Gertrude Bush.
no, but
yeah,
so,
that was
I will
weird.
say, okay,
That
I'm
was-
looking at this from an objective.
come on.
No, I swear I am.
I mean, I have Gert as a tattaoo. So
Right.
know
I don't even
hate
have Gert as a
Fairyland.
tattoo currently.
I love I hate Fairyland. So I
currently.
do agree with that.
Okay.
But this is another one of those examples of a comic book that's an ongoing comic book that I forget can
Is
still be
ongoing 'cause you just
qualified
keep-
as comic book of the
Right,
year.
you just keep up with it. So to me, you need a refresher sometimes, right? And I have gotten deep into the world of comic horror stuff. Like this is now, I almost feel bad because sometimes. So perfect example, right? I own a comic book store. For a
Wait.
living, I got to talk about
Where?
comic books. What?
Where? Wait, Jason, he owns a comic book store?
I've heard that.
So I should be. I
Top shelf?
should be. Oh God,
Did you just say that out loud?
that's terrible. I
there
should
a
be well.
sponsor?
I should be well versed, right?
Can I get sponsorships from both of them?
I think we're gonna renege ours right now. That's
I
it.
get
We're
it. I
pulling
get it.
ours.
The best part about this is the fact that this is like a worldwide podcast, and people are like, "Who the top
What
shelf?
the hell are these guys talking about?
Okay,
Yeah.
You own a comic book shop?
Right. So I have a comic book shop. So I should be well versed. I should be well read, right? There is stuff going on in especially in the big two. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me like, "Oh, how's Venom War?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I really don't know. Like, I have no idea. I couldn't keep up with it.
so hard to keep track
So-
of. You keep up with
oh
it.
my God, there's so much stuff. So I've been deep diving into all of the horror and reading all this horror stuff, and I've been big into the indie scene. And sometimes you need that like refresher. You need that something different. And I Hate Fairyland still to this day gets me laughs. I love it. I enjoy it. So I Hate Fairyland.
Well, I think part of it is that Scotty doesn't do the art anymore. Nothing against Brett. Like
Yep.
the artist that currently does the I Hate Fairyland, but it's like one of the reasons why I picked up I Hate Fairyland in the first place was because it was Scotty doing everything.
Yeah.
And so having him not only write and not illustrate does take a small amount away from it.
You know what's funny? I
also
was
do
afraid
miss
of
like
that.
the very first story I Hate Fairyland was the story was unique, the idea behind it, and now it's like one of those things like how is Patrick Horvath gonna be Beneath the Trees Volume 2.
Volume 2, right.
And like, how is it? So he's done it well, and I think Scotty did answer the question like, okay, well, at the end of the volumes of I Hate Fair, the first volumes of I Hate Fairland, she gets out of Fairland. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how is she gonna end up back in Fairland? How is that gonna
Right.
translate back
into it?
And he did do well. He did do well.
They did a great job.
You know, comics of the year.
Really? Okay.
But
See,
I
and
also
for me,
read a
not
lot.
only is it
Again, we
comics
talked
of the
about
year, it's 3.
But it's also like so 100 comics, 100, 200 series plus I read this year.
Right.
There's that too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this like
No, that's
how,
fair.
you know, so
Yeah. I don't know. For me, I guess it holds that spot. I still think, because I had the fear when it restarted. I go, why are we restarting? I like the way it ended. Do we really need to do this?
So when did it restart? It restarted last year, and it didn't make your list last year, but it made your list this year.
Apparently, I've just enjoyed that much more.
That's just okay. Cool.
I don't know. Maybe and we should have said there isn't a lot of comedy in the world of comics anymore.
Yeah.
So to me, that's that.
And this
bright
is horror
spot.
comedy in that sense too.
Yeah, it
in my
is too.
opinion.
Yeah, it is.
It's not young adult
for
comedy.
anybody who doesn't know what I Hate Fairyland is. I always say it's Calvin and Hobbes for adults. This is not like I'm not going to hand this to my kids and go, here guys, have fun.
I mean,
You know,
we joked about
it's fantasy.
Gertrude's Bush. There's literally a cover where that's the first thing is I Hate Fairyland, but the comic book was originally supposed to be called Fuck Fairyland, and there's an actual variant cover B every month that has Fuck Fairyland as the title, and there was a cover A, which was in the comic book there was Gertrude with. So Gertrude's now, she's an adult.
She's nude and
she's nude and she has a green bush.
Hair, yeah.
And in the Fuck Fairyland variant, it's showing it. And the I Hate Fairyland variant of it, it's got just the pixelated thing over it.
You just sold the shit out of that.
Yo, so here's the deal. No, here's the problem. So this is funny. So we just announced this is episode whatever, it's past 200 now.
Yeah. We're 200 plus.
I can actually tell you, it's 203.
Oh, episode 203.
But episode 101 was with Scotty. It was the most popular episode last year. And I talked to him about it. I'm like, why did you take my innocent? I say innocent. Like she's like killing
Gertrude
people,
is not innocent. She murders everything she sees.
And now I'm like looking at her. I got this little girl on my arm here. And so now she's an adult that has pubic hair. And I'm like, motherfucker, why did you do this to me? But no, it's true. And it's funny. It's like that's the funny. It's like it's not raunchy.
Right.
But
no.
It's got
it's
blood,
it's sort of funny how she ends up. You know, it's not this
her
like
sidekick
raunchiness
smokes
for
a
her.
cigar. Like,
like
this whole thing.
He's
so.
always drunk.
Yes.
Like yeah,
So.
which you would have to be to follow her around constantly.
It's such a fascinating thing because like going to Fairland, you're like, oh, it's Fairland, and then she's there stuck there forever.
Yeah,
and
stuck there for 30 plus years, and she keeps aging mentally, but not physically.
So it's worth checking out. I do agree, it's a good comic book. I'm just
So all right. Well, so for me, I Hate Fairyland.
I mean, at this point, I've had Scotty on, so I'm not afraid of not getting him on anymore. So like, I can't like.
Scotty, I still love you, even though Justin doesn't.
Number 3 for me is Kill All Immortals.
Oh, that's
so we had this is the second one now we've had on both of our lists that I got higher than yours this time. Secession meets John Wick. I don't know if anybody's fans of those two series. Family story, so a fantastic family story. Vikings. Immortal Vikings.
I mean, it almost had me at that anyway.
It says all this stuff, and so like, it had me honestly at issue 1. But then as the issues continued and so on and so forth, there might be more coming. According to Zach Kaplan's email list, there might be a future to Kill All Immortals. But I think it's one of those things, and honestly, I think it's one of those things that would translate perfectly to TV.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that being a TV series.
Yeah, and so like that's why this comic book, it's another Dark Horse comic for me this year. Dark Horse to me, I don't know, something about, and I don't know if it's because there's like IDW is like. I love IDW, but like they're struggling in some facets. They're succeeding with TMNT in some facets. Right. There's some they did a couple of years ago that's amazing independent and creator-owned stuff, and they seem to whittle away.
Dark Horse, I think Dark Horse has improved their creator-owned stuff a lot.
And I think that something like Kill All Immortals and Zach Kaplan to me has been one of the. I mean, if we went through and did Creators of the Year and stuff like that, I think Zach would be in this. So Zach was an honorable mention. Easily. Zach was an honorable mention with Midnight Shadows, and then this. Is absolutely phenomenal, and that said he did Beyond Real. So there's a bunch of stuff that this guy's done that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I think that he partners up with great artists on these things and so on and so forth. And I think there's some twists and some action. The Secession meets John Wick is another one of those ones where I'm like, I don't like those comparison things, but like it makes complete sense about power and money. And
all of it.
how
it corrupts. Deep down. Yep.
And so that's a short series. So I think it's only 4 issues, maybe.
Was it 5? I thought it was 5.
Maybe 5
Yeah.
issues. But again, one of those mini series that you can get done, and hopefully there's a future for it. But
Oh, absolutely.
number
Yeah.
3.
No, that I mean
My number
it's
3
a great read. And I think to say something to Dark Horse, so 5 years ago when
I'd say jokingly that they're listening, but Caitlin might be listening. One of their PR
so
people,
5 years ago when I started, to me Dark Horse was always Hellboy.
Keep talking.
It was Hellboy. Okay, I open my order sheet. I'm not ordering Hellboy. I'm done, and I move on to my next publisher because we just don't have that much of a Hellboy following. And when I started, I felt like that's what Dark Horse was. And now I feel like they have got some of the best creator-owned property coming out. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're.
The funny thing is, I'm more of a fan of their creator-owned stuff than I am even Hellboy or
Yeah, I know.
And the funny thing is, it's like, oh, look at this new title coming out. I'm like, oh, and then I look at it and I go, I find out it's Mike Mignola, and it's just part of the Hellboy universe, or that kind of stuff. And it's like,
just not my.
and
It's not
tell
my
you
cup
right now,
of tea. And
the funny thing is, Berserk is their number. That's how they make their money.
It's crazy.
It's the licensing agreement they have with Berserk is the
We still
reprinting.
sell volumes of Berserk. Yeah.
But all their other stuff, it's great. I think that they don't really do much. I mean, they used to do the Star Wars, or they do the Star Wars.
They still do Star Wars,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm saying that there's not very much intellectual property. It's mostly creator-owned stuff, and I think a lot of people like working with them. I think
they did the right thing. They took the step that needed to be done at the time to say, okay, it's time that we grow and change maybe what we do and what the perception of comics
I think they're up there.
are.
I think honestly, and again, I in the past I've done Publishers of the Year and like things like that, the lists on the website. I think it's one of those things that Dark Horse is now considered to be that portion. They've overtaken Boom in my opinion. Boom has Something's Killing the Children.
Right.
Like they have that.
Wait, did you say Something's Killing the Children?
Boom.
Number 2 of the year. Something's Killing the Children.
See, that's another one again. It's the continuation series that I just don't put on my list.
Okay. I mean, hey, you don't have to. I can tell you, every time Something is Killing the Children comes out, my life stops. That's it. It's time to read Something's Killing the Children. Don't bother me.
Your life doesn't stop. You have 3 girls.
No, because God loved my wife. She takes the little gremlins and says, all right, guys, we're going to go do something. Dad's going to read.
Something's Killing the Children Day. Yeah. Because guess what? If Dad can't read Something's Killing the Children, someone will kill these children. So.
No, she knows. She said, okay, this is my jam. This is my thing. So I sit down, and I got to say, we talked about how the major overall arc for this year was more of like a prequel.
Yeah.
But I think they still nailed it. They crushed it. And as always, I'm waiting for more. I can't. Everybody says, I get so many people that come in and they'll say, oh, what are you reading? Or what's your favorite series right now? It's always Something's Killing the Children.
Yeah.
So I can't help it. It's number 2.
But so, yeah, and then that's the title that's not saying he's keeping them afloat because they have a bunch of good titles. But that's the one they keep
that's got to be their
hanging the hat on because you got the source books coming out and the artwork books coming out.
Oh yeah, the arts and they still have the side stuff of like the House of Slaughter and all these other things. But yeah, Something's Killing the Children to me is the must read.
I will say right now,
I recommend
still
it
good.
so much. We have sold, I think we're closing on 70 copies of Something's Killing the Children's Trade Volume 1.
I think you're
for a small market, like it's crazy.
You are right about it being still good. Nothing compares to Volume 1 and 2. It never will reach.
I think the first 3 to me.
Hold
the first
on one
3
second.
trades.
We've got a question from the audience.
Oh.
Well, Justin, you said several times now that you forget these long ongoing series.
Long ongoing series. Yeah.
Paul, you don't forget.
Apparently not. I'm like an elephant.
Do you think that it's easy to overlook them? Because you take something like Spider-Man that's been going on since the '60s. I think some people might consider it just a machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It's almost like a given.
They give that Spider-Man's going to be good or going to be there.
It's going to be there.
Going to be at least passable because
Batman
it's
is gonna
Spider-Man.
be there.
Marvel's not going to let some schmuck write Spider-Man or illustrate Spider-Man.
Are we sure about that based on the last? Sorry.
They've had their dark
Never mind.
moments, right?
But I'm saying, but still,
Never
it's
mind.
still not a random ass person writing a story. So it's
Right.
But just to ask, have either of you read Spider-Man this year? Or
No.
Batman this year?
No.
I have.
Have we read? Basically, if anybody can't hear, have we read any of the Batman, Spider-Man, any of the main characters?
Main
from the...
storyline stuff. So all right. So I have tried Spider-Man. I tried.
You read Ultimate Spider-Man, but not.
Well, right, but I tried the ASM line, and I'm sorry, just not my jam. I'm excited it's resetting.
Who was it this year?
Zeb Wells.
Yeah, that's right. That's why you don't like it.
Still, Zeb Wells, still. And that's ended now. We're done the Zeb Wells era of Spider-Man, and I think it's great to refresh. I was shocked that ASM didn't go back to number 1. and we didn't start a new series because so many fans of Spider-Man were not particularly
Yeah.
happy with this run. So I was sort of surprised to see Zeb Wells ended at 60, and I was surprised that 61 came out rather than saying, okay, we're gonna reset this whole thing.
I will say, Jason,
modern Batman. I'm sorry, I'm lost on modern Batman. I went back and I said I got to catch up, and I went back and then I went back and then I went back and I went. I'm so far back now. I don't even want to start again.
Well, one of the things that Batman's been doing is like whatever storyline they've got going, and this has been going on for a while, is you got to dig back years.
You do, yeah.
Oh, and you have to be a
Yeah.
big Batman fan to read the current
Yeah,
Batman.
you got to know
And
what is going on in
that's
Batman.
something
There's all
that-
these references, and that was my problem because I went in and I said, "Well, all right, I'm gonna pick this back up because I hated the Rebirth era, and that's where my Batman stopped."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, I'll pick back up." And then when I tried, I said, well, "Holy shit, I can't read this volume. I can't read that volume. I'm going further and further back." And by the time I got done, I have a stack of Batman trades in my to read pile, and I went, "I don't even feel like doing this anymore."
Yeah.
Well, that happened to me when I
And I just-
decided I was going to read City of Bane.
Yeah.
And that's volume 12.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Really better got to go back to volume.
Well, and we talk about this in book club sometimes that it's hard with the big two because
pick
you try to
something that
pick
you
something
don't
that
know.
doesn't require a
Yeah.
lot of knowledge in one of these characters and not have a pile of background references
But I also
that
feel
you're
like
not
it's
going to
not your
understand.
responsibility. And it's one of those things that, like, in book club, for book club sense, like picking a book, I was like, okay, it's not my responsibility that Jason doesn't know the history of Marvel.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
true.
we can't always pick something unless you only ever pick independent that starts with issue 1.
Right.
Well,
Like,
when I
that's the
read
only, like,
City of
yeah.
Bane, I just did a little bit of once I
You
got
guys
a
keep
few
talking.
pages in, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I did a little bit of homework and I'm like, all right, I got it. And then I picked it up and I want to read the rest of it, but I read enough to know what's happening. So,
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's definitely hard, and the big two are hard, and I did that. I kept backing up, and I said, "Geez, this is getting I'm getting
And I would
more and more
encourage-
trades in my pile to try to catch up on Batman." And by the time I got done, it was almost more overwhelming.
Oh, sure. But I would encourage, people that are interested in breaking into an old series like that. It's like, just do it. It's going to be okay. You just got to read a little bit of background info.
Right. Pick a
know what's
pick a
going on,
spot.
and you're going to enjoy.
Sure.
Gonna enjoy.
Pick a spot. Yeah.
Not to digress. I was just curious.
Yeah. No, yeah, and it is funny. And I think in our top 10 list, it's easy to say, well, I'm only going to pick stuff that came out with number 1 this year. It's easy to say, all right, that way, you've got a more full, encompassing story that's all there. But I get Justin, here we are, right? I hate Fairyland, Something's Killing the Children, these ones that to me, and it's not just that they're my favorite arcs or my favorite stories anyways. To me, they still hold up to being on the top books of the year. And I think I would say, sorry, to me, this has dropped off. Go read something else.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't. I still think that I Hate Fairyland is as enjoyable now as it was. Something's Killing the Children is just as good now as it was. So for me, these ongoing stories still hold.
And you're exactly what some of these publishers want. Like, you're the customer that they want.
Right.
Because if the world we've moved into is miniseries. Like, the miniseries
Oh,
is taking
huge,
over.
yeah.
And I think part of my dilemma, or part of my problem, is I like not new things, but like new stories, innovative stories.
Something fresh.
And I want to find that next Something's Killing the Children.
Right.
I want to find that next thing where they're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing
You need
thing
that
I've ever read.
fix of that new.
And so,
yeah, for sure.
but you're right though. Erica Slaughter is still just as good.
Right.
She's
Still as badass as she was the first time we talked about her.
Gertrude is still just as badass as she always has been.
Yeah.
So I do understand that. I think that I'm more apt to, in Jason's point here with ongoing like Spider-Man stories or Batman stories or so on, is I'm more apt to read continuously I Hate Fairyland or Something's Killing the Children.
Yep.
Department of Truth, things like that, than I am to read Spider-Man right now. And I think that's just because I feel like I've been burned over the years,
Right.
recent years with Marvel.
And buying it because you feel like you have to. Reading it because you feel like you have
There's
to.
a problem if Marvel was like to take some of these innovative storylines that are independent comics are creating and put Spider-Man, put that as the background of Spider-Man. Why can't, I mean, obviously we're not gonna make Something's Killing the Children. This is a far off fetched
Right.
thing, but why can't there be a story in Spider-Man that's like Something's Killing the Children?
Right.
Again, bad connection on what's two stories. I'm just thinking with two things we just talked about.
Right.
Is there something, why can't some of these innovative storylines still be in Marvel Comics? Like, why do we have to have the same thing over and
That's
over
a
again?
business decision for
Yeah.
sure. Because when you take, there's a big difference between like the writing that James Tynion does when he writes for DC and the writing that he does when he's on his own. He's more reeled in when he writes for
Yeah.
DC.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's their brand.
I think letting people have more freedom and tell stories. And you had a customer in here before we started recording about how he didn't like the Ultimate stuff. Like he basically was like, "Don't erase all my stuff."
Right.
That I've known.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
past.
Well,
I
no,
want
he was saying like you'd rather have it at least be that way
yeah.
than to be like, oh, by the way, everything that you have committed to for all this time is gone.
It's gone.
So if we're gonna kick off a new universe, let it be in a new universe, rather than. And I feel like this is a hard part of the big too, is that you have, like, holy hell, 100 years.
But I think it's
of material
it's
almost.
a fault that's faulted them in
And-
the 80s, the 70s, 80s, the 90s, where they could just continue doing it. If they would have started
Right.
back then, every couple of years rebooting the series,
Right.
And
Instead,
because
it was
they
like
kept
who can go the
going,
longest.
Whoever can go
Yeah.
to issue 607, how far can we go with the
Right.
Spider-Man series? If they would have started by doing 30-issue series and
What,
then another
what would have
30-issue
happened
series,
if
we'd be in
Peter
a different
stopped
world.
being
I think
Spider-Man
we'd be in a different
back
world
in
now. I think we'd be in a
1975?
different position. I think
Yeah.
the big twos are always going to have that. But what someone like DC is doing somewhat better than Marvel right now is also doing things like Nice House on the Lake and Nice House on the Sea and doing some of the Peacemaker Tries Hard series. Like they're doing these series that are like kind of like independent comics in the world of DC or with still the umbrella of Vertigo coming back.
Right.
Those kind of things, I think, is one of those things that Marvel has never. The only thing they have to play with is Marvel proper.
Look at
and Star Wars.
DC
all of their
Horror
cool,
Presents.
all of their cool auxiliary characters they get to play with because of Disney
Yeah.
are at Dynamite.
Yeah.
And so
It
it's
was
like
just weird.
I think
Weird
Black
choice not to
Label
keep
is one
that
of the-
stuff.
one of the
Black
smartest
Label's
things
in.
DC's ever done.
Agreed.
But Vertigo, bringing Vertigo back.
Their attachment to Disney now, they can't do that.
Well, it's
Right.
but they gave all the Disney properties over to Dynamite.
Well, Marvel
So
said
your
that they wouldn't.
Darkwing Duck and your DuckTale, all those things are all over Dynamite now.
I've started seeing a little bit of it coming back out into reprint, but originally they said they weren't going to reprint any of the Marvel Knights era stuff because it was too dark, too violent.
Well, that's what
all
they
of
did the
that.
whole, and that's what I wish they
And-
would have done with Blood Hunt. With Blood Hunt, which was one of my honorable mentions.
They did the red band.
They did the red
stuff.
band things,
Yeah.
and like I don't know about the red band. Do you think it was a shock factor? They thought people were going to buy it, and you did have multiple customers buying both copies,
Right.
So maybe it's a sales thing, but like Marvel Max was phenomenal. I loved Max with with the introduction of Jessica Jones and all those characters. Is let's go a little darker, go a little bit independent, but also have you can separate it by being a different line. And I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't kept with like the longer series at Marvel.
Yeah.
I've read the mini series. I've read Blood Hunt, the story arc series first, but I haven't. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why Spider-Man's not on my comics of the year because I didn't read a single Spider-Man comic book this year.
Yeah.
I even bought all the Ultimate Spider-Man
Yep.
and didn't even get into it yet because again I've been burned too many times. I think.
Look
as a
at that.
comic book
I
reader,
actually
dude.
read-
Now that you own them, you can look at it when you want.
I at least read something you
Yes.
haven't read. Look at that.
And I think the guy's perspective on with the Ultimates erasing what he's
Yes,
I
yes,
love all of
yes,
these
Ultimates
I think
are-
that's really unfortunate because it doesn't erase it. It doesn't
Right.
erase the storyline that's been going on since the
Because you
60s.
also, if you read it, it's still there.
Right.
It's still something you can go back to. It's still
And
part
what
of your
it is,
history.
is a fantastic avenue
Keep
for a
going.
new comic book reader to come in.
But yeah, I think it's there is this, and maybe that's my goal for my what's it called? New Year's resolution for comic books in 2025 is to pick a series or two and say, okay, catch up on something that's killing the children, stay with something that's killing the children, and see if I like these things. Dive into. I mean, Spider-Man's gonna have to at some point be a number one. In 2025, there'll be a number one Spider-Man. Like they're gonna have to end the series and do the next series. They just always will have to do that. And maybe it is jumping back into a Spider-Man series or something like that. But like I jumped onto Blood Hunt because I think it sounded fun. I think it sounded like different. I honestly was one of the few fans of King in Black. I did like that series, but still to this day, Secret Wars, Civil War, those are still my like. OG, I'm not that OG, but they're OG to me.
Right.
Series that I'm like still. I just told Paul before
I
we.
think my beloved series is like, what do I like the best? Dark Phoenix Saga, Ball of the Mutants.
But they keep
all
also
that.
rehashing that, and they keep trying to bring back Phoenix, and they keep trying to do these things in Days of Future Past and all. Like.
Well, they do it. They do it with all of them. I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
Spider-Man, for
But
example, has been going on for 60 years now. They have been telling the same story.
But I so Secret Invasion is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, story arc in Marvel history. Okay, I think there's a little bit of that mysterious part of it being like, who is who?
Who's good,
Skrulls,
who's bad, who can you trust?
And here's the deal: they did that series last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But other than that, they
Yeah,
have not
2 years ago.
touched the Secret Invasion style story.
Done. Nope.
They did Civil War 2 almost
Yeah.
immediately, which sucks because
Poor life choice.
Brian Michael Bendis did it, and I love Brian Michael Bendis. It's like it's a stain on his career.
Yeah.
But some of these other series, they just keep going back to. It's like, one of the things, if you look at the top 20 movies of all time gross, I would say out of the top 20, 18 of them are sequels, continuations, or same universes. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
The beneath the trees that nobody sees isn't out there outside of independent comics. There isn't. Marvel's never going to take a chance on making a series that's so drastically different from what they do because they're afraid people aren't going to buy it.
I mean, unfortunately,
They think it won't work,
they,
yeah.
They can afford to.
The Ultimate Universe could have been that. And I have no issue with the Ultimate Universe now. I love the idea of having an Ultimate Universe. I think they could have done the Ultimate Universe where it's like, we're going to do crazy ass shit.
Right.
You're talking like Black Panther is an actual panther. Like, just something along those lines where it's like, we're just going to go buck wild and do this thing crazy.
Completely
and I don't
off.
think they're always going to be in this box. And that's nothing. There's people out there that solely read Big Two.
Yep.
And I have no issue with them. I've just been over the past 3 or 4 years, and you've seen my pull list and things like that I've gravitated towards people who have no constraints.
Yep.
There's nothing that tells them outside of a publisher going, we're not going to publish your book, what you can do in your book. James Tiny, I don't think Boom is going to James and being like, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't see that
I don't
happening.
see that happening. It's their cash cow. It's just same with even with TMNT. Nickelodeon owns TMNT, Viacom.
Yeah.
They're not going to Marvel or to IDW and be like, you can't tell that story.
Right.
And so like there's these big properties that are out there that no one, I don't think Hasbro is really controlling too much of what Transformers is doing.
No,
or,
I don't think so.
Or Roy Rivals or whatever. They gave the rights to Skybound.
To have at it.
Thing.
See
So
if you can put us in the big.
it's a big thing. So I don't know where we were at. I mean,
Number one?
Well, I have a number 2. We have a number 2.
I had number 2.
What'd you do number 2?
Number 2. Somebody's going to the children.
It's number 2. I
Yeah.
have a number 2.
Okay, do your number 2.
Transformers.
What? Whoa.
So is your Transformers separate? We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, so Transformers to me, I have never really been a massive Transformers fan.
Right.
Okay, I love. Don't punch me. The spectacle that the movies are, not the actual stories. The stories aren't great. The idea that so here's the deal. You go. What do you go?
I gotta go lie down.
What do you go to the movie theater for?
The fun of it, I guess.
Entertainment.
The entertainment.
Entertainment.
Yeah, sure.
So you can't tell me that from Shia LaBeouf's Transformers, that the first couple of ones, that it wasn't at least entertaining. To
Okay,
watch.
the first movie is entertaining. I
Maybe
still
the
enjoy
first
the
two-
first
maybe
movie.
the
The
first one or
second
two or
one, and
three.
boy, it starts sinking
Okay,
real
so
fast.
seeing
yeah.
that and getting to see that, and here's the deal: as a Transformers fan, getting to see that live action, getting to see that whole thing, is an
I
experience.
think somewhere deep in my soul, Michael Bay literally has hurt me.
I don't know what Michael Bay does.
I think he has hurt me.
But I do think there's something to be said about it, and that's what my life to me really was that Transformers.
Right, that's all
And
you
so
know.
like
Okay.
getting to read this book, I'm like, I don't know much about Transformers. And Daniel Warren Johnson killed the illustrations of it.
Mm-hmm.
He killed the storyline of it. He told stories that will resonate with old school fans, with new school fans.
Yeah.
He really did the Transformers justice, and I think we talked about it off recording, was the fact that he told Hasbro in Skybound, I am going to do the Transformers.
Right.
Then we'll talk about new creations.
Right.
Because they basically, I think, wanted him originally to be like, from the beginning.
Let's kick this
he
80s
wanted-
style.
We're gonna start with new Transformers, and I don't think he wanted that. He's like, I want to be able to do the Transformers people realize and the Transformers of old, and we'll go to the new ones at some point. And I think that he did a great job with creating this story. I mean, the Energon universe, yes, is great.
Right.
Duke's great. Scarlet's great. Void Rivals is great. I think that G.I. Joe's is gonna be great. Transformers is the elite of all of those right now. And I think that's one of those things that Transformers just stands above the rest of them. I think Daniel Warren Johnson tackling all of it, because he's an insane illustrator and an insane storyteller, has been Transformers' top 2 comic of the year for me.
Well, you're wrong. Because it's number one.
for you. Yeah,
It's number
I
one.
told you. I
Yes.
knew that was going to be the
Yes.
answer.
Number one.
So you had
Transformers.
cheated again. 'Cause
How
you
did
had-
I cheat?
You had the Energon universe as one. That's just the
Well,
Energon
right.
universe.
Well, I'm not going to say. Okay, I could have. I will say when my top 10 started,
Yes.
I had Duke as number 2, and I think Cobra Commander was number 5, And I was going, I'm like, all right, let's.
So Paul would have just sat up here and go,
Yeah.
okay, my top 10 comics of the year is the Energon universe.
Number 7 is Void Rivals. I was like, all right, I can't do this. Like, we
Okay,
got to get
so-
some more
so
depth in my list. We got to get some
Energon
more
universe
spread.
outside of Transformers was your
Was
whatever.
my number 7 or,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it was. But top of the year is Transformers, and that's the one. Anybody coming in, I'm going to say, read Transformers.
Yes.
Then after that, if you're hooked like I am, then go read some of these other things. And we have a diverse group here of fans coming in, and some of them are like the Transformer diehards, and they're going in. And then those people we chat, and I say, you really need to go give Duke a shot because you're loving Transformers, or you got to go give Cobra Commander a try. But Darren Warren Johnson has absolutely made this a book for all readers. And I don't want to say all readers because it's graphic. You know, we have kids come in here sometimes, they're like, oh, Transformers. I'm like, this might not be your...
Well, do you even have any?
I've got some trades that just came back in, because we have sold 40 copies of Transformers Volume 1.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
You have not read Jason has not read Transformers.
I haven't, and Transformers was the first book I ever collected. When
Yes,
I was a
see?
little kid. I mean,
Whoa.
I love them. So I'm gonna have to check.
There's something about this Transformers series. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean,
No.
2, 1.
So, and here you go. So I grew up with Transformers as far as I watched it periodically in cartoon. I had some of the action figures. I wasn't deep into the Transformer lore or anything.
You were a big G.I. Joe fan.
I was a big G.I. Joe fan.
So having them built.
Yeah, they crossed over,
Well,
right?
but same, but nowadays, and being
Nowadays,
basically-
yeah, you almost have one in the other.
Yeah.
But with the new Transformers movies coming out back in the day with Michael Bay's stuff there, I went and saw it, and great, terrific. It's nice to see Transformers are back again on the general world.
Paul went to see it because Megan Fox was in it.
No. But I went out.
It wasn't a wrong. You weren't pissed that it was.
Well,
choosing it.
no.
I was gonna say,
Who
Paul,
would be?
wait a second here.
But
I was really into those Transformers.
But I went out and I started reading the now old IDW Transformer run. And some of that stuff is fantastic. And I said it's hard because some of the original IDW Transformer run is really well done, and some of it gets really chaotic, and it's quick.
Yeah.
You go right from like, I am on board to what the hell is
going on?
happening?
Yeah.
What is going on? Why am I reading this? So I think it's that part of it's hard. And Darren Warren Johnson has brought Transformers back to everyone to say, here's how it starts.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you know who Optimus Prime is in the first issue or not. And then coming to like my age group, it's everything you ever want Transformers to be. Like, it's an action adventure. It is more graphic. It is more violent than your traditional style of Transformers. Like, they're killing humans. The Decepticons are bad. They're evil. That's what they are. And you get deep into everything that I want to see in Transformers. And the fact that, to me, because I'm wearing my GWO shirt here, I didn't know I needed to see Optimus Prime, German Suplex Starscream until I saw Optimus Prime, German Suplex Starscream. And I was like, holy hell, this is incredible.
You know where that's coming from, though.
Yeah.
German Suplex Starscream.
See?
No.
You sold me.
There you go.
No, but
you need it.
you know where this is coming from because Darren
Darren
Warren
Warren
Johnson's a
Johnson's
huge wrestling
Dual power
fan.
bomb.
Yeah, and so like there's that crossover in there, and I think that it also shows that the person who's like talented to write it. So like, say for an example, if they were like James Tynion, we're gonna get you to write Transformers.
Right.
Cool, excellent writer. We'll do a killer job, and then we're gonna have so and so come in and do artwork. We'll probably do a killer job. We'll probably be a great comic book. I
Right.
don't think it'll be number one for you.
You love
Because
Ryan Brown.
Darren-
Ryan Brown in here. I love
Yes.
Ryan Brown. Him doing Transformers art.
Darren Warren Johnson
incredible.
coming in and doing it, and doing both. He's a classic fan of Star
Yes,
Wars,
he is a
Transformers.
fan
So
of
your
Transformers.
He's going to pour his heart into it. He
Yeah.
did say it was one of the most difficult things he's done in his comic book history because, like, Do a Powerbomb, for example, was one of his award-winning book before this.
Yeah.
Was characters. So it's fluid. Your arm moves in a way that he can draw around edges and drawing Transformers. A lot of straight lines. Transformers are boxy. They're boxy by trait. They're not.
You have to take in consideration Transformers a little bit that you can't just go, I'm going to make him look this way because you still have to remember that they have to transform into whatever the hell they're supposed to transform
and they
into.
look like a specific character.
Yeah.
This is not like someone he's creating. This is someone.
No,
Do a
these are
Powerbomb.
pre-existing
He's like, well, that face
characters.
looks kind of funny, but Well, we haven't had him yet, so that's what he looks like.
Right, it doesn't matter.
You know, Optimus Prime looks like Optimus Prime.
You have to have
can't
Optimus Prime look like
change
Optimus Prime, or
And
people
so,
will be
but
upset.
even that, when someone draws Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is transitioned or always been basically looking like Mark Hamill,
Right.
early Mark Hamill.
Yeah, if you come in and change Luke Skywalker,
But
the
you
world
still have
will
you
be
still
mad
have a
at you.
freedom though. You
Right.
still have a 10%, 20%, 30% on either side of it. And
You can
Jason-
age him, you can change him, this and that.
But
yeah.
you could also like be like, okay, his nose looks a little bit different. No one's really going to question that as much
Right.
as they're going to question why does Optimus Prime's leg longer than normal, or why
Right.
is Optimus Prime's color blue instead of red in that area? Like it's like there's like
You're talking 1980s now.
yeah,
Yeah.
But you have this thing you have to stick to. But like again, straight lines was his big thing was the fact that there's like
You can
there's so many straight lines,
Yeah.
and he realized that when he did the Skybound and Hasbro had him do these like flashcards almost like to show his characters, and he had to draw them all. And he's like, "Oh shit, what did I sign on to?" Because he's like, "I have to draw all these characters with straight lines," and it's like when they move in certain areas, you have to draw them specific ways, and it was just a little bit more difficult. That being said, nailed it.
Oh,
Out of the
yeah,
park.
absolutely.
Like, it's like he just
Yeah.
like complaining about it. We're all like, "Screw you, man."
Yeah, no,
Like,
100%.
Yeah,
Kills
so,
this thing.
yeah, he kills
Yeah,
it. It's
and
amazing.
your character development is fantastic, but the homage to these characters, them acting the way they should, speaking the way they should,
Yeah.
is spot on. You can tell he's a fan.
Yeah.
You can tell he loves it. And I grew up, not as Transformers as my prominent interest, but I still enjoyed it. So when I see these things, I do have an expectation. Starscream's gonna act the way Starscream's gonna act and such, and they killed it. It was phenomenal. Jason's gonna grab the doors. We have another guest joining us.
But
It's
yeah.
Emma.
So you're right on the whole thing. It's like it's a Emma's here. This is amazing. And so the having his person of having someone like Dana Warren Johnson. What I've always fought for someone like anybody who writes Star Wars or draws Star Wars or something. No company hires a creator who doesn't passionate about.
You're
the
not going to hire me to do
So
Star
when someone
Wars.
goes, when someone does Star Wars, they're never going to be like, "Oh, I kind of like Star Wars. I'll write it." No, they're going to be passionate about
Yeah,
the thing.
100%.
But they got the most amazing person to do this book, and
Yep.
he chose to do Transformers over doing something creator own, where he's going to make more money, where he's going to have more freedom. And Dana Warren Johnson, I would say you're number two, you're number one, my number two. Creator of the year, right there. In my
Oh, God,
opinion.
yeah.
He's Dana Warren Johnson
Yeah, I
on that
think so.
side. And so Transformers, you're being number two, or you're number one, am I number two?
I
Becomes,
mean, it shows.
and
I think we did this last year
de
too.
facto comes the number one comic of the year
Yeah,
because
I think we did
it
that
was
last
my
year.
highest rated comic that was also your highest rated
Yep.
comic in that sense. And so there's that. But my number one
Okay.
is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Hey, I had that on my list.
And so Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Patrick Horvath. We've talked about how he was on your list. Dexter meets Richard Scarry. Off the wall kind of comic book. Not original in the sense that it's basically a detective serial killer with a detective story together.
Yeah, who done it sort of.
Richard Scarry is where it makes the difference. It makes this whole like using child animation, child drawing, child illustrations to tell a horror story, a serial killer story. I think it'd be great. I honestly would love now to see anything. I would love to see Ed Gein's story, John Wayne Gacy's story. I'd love to see all these horror serial killer stories told in the format of young children's stories.
You want to see the old Freddy and Jason and all the
I
slasher
wanna
movies
You take
redone?
Calvin and Hobbes and tell friggin' BTK Strangler. I want to see horror stories told in kids animation over and over and over again. Now I don't think
a little messed up.
Patrick Horvath can now take.
It's great.
Hopes that kid sees them.
Yes.
I think that's the best.
No, so I was just talking about earlier with Aaron who helps you out here, and I was saying that.
Aaron, our top unofficial official employee. Or
Eric
official,
Powell
unofficial.
illustrated a book called "Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Did?"
I was going to ask you what you thought
So
of that book.
book is phenomenal,
Yep.
and I love the title of it because it's called "Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done?" Because basically what it was is that in Plainsville, where Eddie Gein was from, people were all like, "Oh, that sweet little kid, the sweet little guy over there, the guy that was on the street, the guy that was wearing people's faces on the weekends."
We insane.
And that book is phenomenal. But would I have loved it way more if that story was told in the Richard Scarry universe? 100%. And I think that's part of it. I think that's this juxtaposition of having this story that I would tell my 3-year-old
Right.
with a horror story that I don't want him to know until he's 30
Right.
is huge in my opinion. And I think that Patrick Horvath has done it. I'm so pumped that we're getting the future of it. We're getting Rite of Spring coming in 2025. He has another book that he did on Zoop, which is a crowdfunding platform for comics, coming out on Oni Press in 2025 as well. So this guy is, he's done variant covers and things like that too, but he's got this art style that is going to be so much fun to work with and do things. So again, Transformers becomes our de facto #1 comic book of the year. But runner up there becomes Beneath the Trees, because I think it was your highest rated comic book. That it was also my highest rated comic book that we came together. And those two books together is just it's been a great year. It's been a great year in comic books.
100%.
I honestly think that it's a weird year in comics in some senses. That I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, I think we did our first one 3 years ago.
At least now, yeah.
That we did it 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and I think there was a lot more like King in Black. I think so there's this weird.
Yeah, I mean, because you have your Marvel arc, right? You know, your big one, and Blood Hunt both was honorable mentions for both of us.
Yeah.
I read some of Blood Hunt and said, okay, I see where this is going. It's interesting. It's different from Marvel Universe. I like that fact, but I'm also not like just in totally like engulfed. I have to read more of this. It was like, okay, cool, different. I like it.
Yeah. And so I think overall our top 10 lists are always going to be saturated with independent comics now.
Oh, 100%.
It's gonna be the way it
I mean,
is.
I always tell like new people asking about our store, I always say we're a very heavy independent supporting store. We do a lot of independent comics, and I don't understand in this day and age almost the traditional comic shops that are like, we carry Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
I'm like, how? Why? Like, how is that all you do? Like, you're missing out on the best comics in the world. So go figure.
So you have Sky.
If I think it looks good, I think it sounds good, and if I appreciate the art, we're carrying it.
I'll tell you right now, with Transformers being 1A, 1B, you know, for both of us, is it's a intellectual property.
Right.
I will say that
And
in
the
the
fact
years
that
that we've done this, and the years that going forward, that will intellectual property title be a #1, #2 comic book for us? Probably not.
Probably not.
And
no.
so Transformers being up there, meaning that Beneath the Trees this year was that 8 Billion Genies last year being
Yeah, oh
independent.
God, yeah,
Those are
8
both
Billion Genies.
independent comics.
That was fantastic.
And
So
so
good.
having this be the intellectual property comic book is the #1 comic book of the year. Having Transformers, I think it's a stellar pickup for Skybound.
Oh
And
God,
having Image Comics
100%.
and so on and so on.
You know what? I think the other thing with this is, yes, it's an intellectual property, absolutely. But as far as the movie side of it going and everything, it's been on a downhill.
Yep.
And people have had less interest. There isn't like a big comic, like cartoon series
Yeah.
going of it.
Transformers 1 is
this-
crazy.
Right, Transformers 1 came out and it was crazy,
Yeah.
but Transformers 1 came out after the Transformers
yeah,
comics
yeah.
had started, back up
Yeah.
again. And Transformers had kind of stopped. Like, there wasn't a lot going on in the world of Transformers when Darren Warren Johnson picked it back up and brought us a fresh telling and a new story to the Transformer world. And I'm sure there's more of it, right? But how much more of the intellectual property is there out there that is going to get refreshed?
Well,
needs to be
so-
refreshed?
so-
It's funny because do you think, looking around at the comic scene right now, tons of this intellectual property of my childhood that had disappeared, all of a sudden,
Silverhawks.
Silverhawks.
Silverhawks come back, man.
Yeah,
Silverhawks
Silverhawks.
Ed Brisson coming out in 2025 from Dynamite Comics.
Biker Mice from Mars,
Yes.
Sectars,
Yes.
like Dick Tracy,
Yeah.
like all of this intellectual property that had kind of died, had
Yeah.
kind of stopped, or really wasn't that big in the first place. I'm waiting for Inhumanoids. Why has someone not brought
true.
the Inhumanoids back? we need Metlar.
Captain Planet.
Captain Planet.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before these ones get picked up. But I'm with you in the fact that how much of this intellectual property can we really get out there that is an original story that's different, that's going to make a top 10 or especially a
that's
#1?
going to satisfy old fans and new fans together.
Right.
Because there's that part of it too, where it's
Which
like
thank
the old school fans.
Thank you to all of the Energon creators, because
Yes.
it's not just Darren Warren Johnson's doing it. We've got Joshua Williamson in there doing the G.I. Joe stuff.
Oh, and Robert Kirkman.
And Robert Kirkman
You have
and-
to tip your hat to Robert Kirkman, because Robert Kirkman is the Jonathan Hickman of the X-Men thing.
Here's your Void rival start
Todd
and then
McFarlane
send
of the
it.
Spawn universe, the person who's taking a hold of the whole thing, the architect of the whole thing.
Yes.
And finding the right creators to do these things. And I think that there's a future for the Energon universe. I think there's G.I. Joe, which is kind of confusing because it's G.I. Joe 1 now and through 11.
I think it's hard. I think a lot of that goes in the publisher side of it, that IDW kind of left G.I. Joe on a giant cliffhanger.
Well, man, it's
and
not
said, here you go.
because IDW didn't know they were losing the...
Well, no, because it was issue 200 and that was it. They wrapped up with this like cliffhanger, and thank God for the fans that were following that run. The Image said, okay, fine.
Take 3 issues, wrap it up, and
we'll
then
keep going. Yeah, I'm so surprised. So yeah, it is hard. The amount of people I've had to take Real American Hero from and go, you don't want this. This is not part of the Energon universe. You're not going to know what the hell is going on in here.
It's G.I. Joe, which is G.I. Joe number 1 that comes from Skybound Universe.
Right.
Skybound. And it's just the Energon universe. And then there's G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 312.
Yeah.
Which is part of the continuation from the IDW run.
Right.
And so that's
which technically ties into the original Marvel run from my childhood. So which is, I mean, you talk about the whole where do you jump in thing. G.I. Joe 1, 1980, whatever, 84, 85, whatever it is.
That's a continuation.
Good luck. Start there.
But I think there's a future. And I don't know, I mean, do you have, Jason, over there, do you have a comic book, your favorite comic book that came out this year? Or do you
came out this year? Feral, for sure.
Feral number
Feral,
one.
there you go.
Yeah.
Top 10 of both ours.
Does Emma have any that came out this year? Feral. See,
Feral. Wow. All right. So Feral is it.
So,
and Graham disappeared. We don't know where.
So
Graham
if you think about as a whole,
Yeah, enough of our
Transformers
crap.
number 1, or Transformers is number 1, I would say. Then that pushes as the Galactic Comics world.
Yeah.
Feral goes in number 2, Beneath the Trees number 3, and so on and so forth. He did like a poll kind of thing, which we actually talked about when you weren't here, Emma. Was the idea that picking the 12 books, 11 books we read this year for book club, which one's our favorite? So we're gonna do a little. At the book at the Christmas party, we'll do a little.
I think we're gonna. It's gonna be a challenge to go back through and try to remember exactly which
We'll
books
be
we
able to figure it
read
out.
just this year.
There's a post at least on the website.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, you always do the post like what we thought of it. Stuff. That's good. Yeah.
The ones that we can't remember the most are probably the ones that we.
We probably aren't gonna make
which
the
we
top
can win
list.
anyway, so it wouldn't matter. So at that point, it's
Talk about the book I hated the most.
yeah.
Well, actually, it wasn't written this year, so I guess it
Yeah,
doesn't count.
Pyongyang.
Best book ever.
Scott was here, and Scott abandoned us, so he doesn't get a chance to defend. But yeah,
There's no defense.
So comic book of the year is, I would say, I said, as a consensus, is Transformers, and I think that goes.
And then Feral and Beneath the Trees goes for your
it's
top
up there.
3. So if you
And then
haven't
add
read
in, you add
those,
in there Kill All Immortals probably before,
Yeah,
because of the
'cause
fact
we
that we
both
both
had
on the
that.
list, and then so I think that. It's been a fun year of comics. I think we have 2025. I wish the world of comics was able for us to go, this is what I'm looking forward to next year.
right?
You know, I wish I could say to everybody, be like, we can say I'm looking forward to Beneath the Trees Volume 2.
Continuing,
I
yeah,
am looking
absolutely.
forward to more Feral.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the ones that wasn't on either one of our lists that really probably could have made it was Local Man. Was
Yeah.
probably one of those ones that I was looking for. Maybe that came back, but obviously it's on hiatus right now. Most of the
continued
issues.
this
So
year.
if any issues that came out, and if as long as there was 2 issues in 2025.
Yeah, so you came in late because I had Somebody's Killing the Children as number 2 and I Hate Fairyland as number 3, and both of which Justin was like, "Oh, come on, man." But they're ongoing, they're continued, they're still
Something's
going.
Killing Children is
like-
his 3rd year in his row. Something's Killing Children. Something's Killing
I
Children.
can tell you right now.
Something's Killing Children was on my 2022 list.
Yeah.
It was on your 23, and it's now on your 24. So you have 3 straight years of
I
Something's Killing
have a
Children.
sneaky suspicion it'll be on my
It
2025.
probably will be unless James says I'm done.
Unless he goes, that's it. In which case, I don't.
Pulls a Robert
gonna-
Kirkman with issue 37 and just says I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, and then that's it. I close Galactic Comics. I go back to the auto part world. I go, screw comic books. I'm finished.
Well,
We're
yeah,
out.
because that's how you make your money is on Something's Killing Children. So
You know what? That is not our top selling comic. It's our top selling trade for sure, but it's not our top selling comic. Probably Transformers is. Oh, Ninja Turtles.
well,
Ninja Turtles is probably our top because we order over 30
I
copies
don't know.
of
Yeah,
TNT
you
every
might
time.
have dropped it down with copies you had to order to get your variant. But
Yeah, that's all right. That's so works.
but yeah, so it's a fun world. I think there's publishers like Magma. They're gonna show their face. I think this year I didn't have a single Mad Cave on there. Mad Cave's great,
I love Mad
but
Cave.
I think
Yeah.
Mad Cave's gonna have a
But
future
yeah, I
there.
didn't have
Dick
a Mad
Tracy
Cave.
would be on that. Image is on our list this year. IDW, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC.
How is it that I didn't have a DC title and you did, and you didn't have a Marvel and I did?
Me?
He
DC
had a DC book.
Emma came in late. Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
There's a DC graphic
The
novel.
graphic novel, yeah.
That was on there. That was phenomenal from Julio Hanta and Jacoby Salcedo. But yeah, I think it's a fun year, and I think 2025. I really wish it was the book year. I can literally sit here and go, "There's 5 books out. I can't wait for 2025." I can't do that in the Marvel.
Transformers, I Hate Fairyland,
Well,
Something's
you
Killing
could say
Children.
you could say anything that's an ongoing series, but any new series, things like
Right,
that.
new stuff.
I
Yeah,
will
so
say,
you don't know
like,
what's coming out.
Like
so this far in
Exorcism
advance.
at 1600 pen. The second issue literally was
Would have been out if Diamond hadn't screwed up
came out this week.
everything.
And then there's only 2 issues that have come out, so I haven't even read the second issue, so that doesn't qualify. But the next year that might be in that issue. So
Yeah.
there's some of those ones that are like came out first issue, second issue came out in November, December. Will qualify next year, so maybe there's some of the. But I just really wish the comic book industry. My goal would be for them to be like 5-issue miniseries. I'm going to sign Jason on for 5-issue miniseries. We're going to illustrate 3 of them now. Get them all ready. Release issue 1 while you're doing issue 4,
Right.
and not be this whole like, oh well, we don't know, and promote it.
Yeah.
Get all 5 issues, illustrated, written, all that stuff done. Get the trade
Going.
organized.
Yeah.
Set a release date saying January 1st, February 1st, so on and so forth. Trade coming out in July, and release that to the public.
Yeah, because I have
Because there's too many times where it's like we get solicitations for it coming out in February now.
right.
But we don't know what July is happening until later.
Later on, and I have comics too with the same idea of
Yep.
that should have been out last week for
Yeah.
issue 2 that now isn't showing until January for issue 2 to drop, and issue 3 that should have been coming out in a couple weeks or whatever is now been pushed way into February because of whatever, whether it be the printer, rather
the writer's done, the artist is not done, the artist is not done, printer,
somewhere in there we got it,
shipping.
and then I think this is a hard part that the comic world needs to catch up on is you are going all around the fact that this fan base is going to remember and stay with you.
Yeah.
And when you start going 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks between issues, they don't remember.
No.
I just saw a title coming out that did 1 comic on one of 3. They did 1. It was well received as far as my store goes. I don't know. Apparently nationwide, maybe there's a problem. It has been almost a year since that issue 1 came out, and I just saw that number 1 is going back to second print because inevitably they're now going to do the 2 and 3 that were promised. How in the hell did someone let this happen? This is not, no, you don't go start making a movie, you don't put out the previews, you don't go in and spend all this money to say, here we go, here comes the movie, then go, hold on a minute. We were supposed to come out in June, but we're going to see what maybe December looks like.
A better example is TV shows. Can you imagine a TV show coming out with a pilot?
You're just sitting there like episode 3, episode 4, and then it just
next year issues episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 out of it. I don't think it would.
Watch a show until it's done.
The new world we're in.
And that's my point. I think the world we live in order to
we want instant gratification, right? You want to have all of it at once and sit there and just go right through. You want to binge watch. You want to binge read.
To compare to combat people who trade weight is having everything done. So you go issues, say January, 5-issue series. January, February, March, April, May, 5 issues.
You should have by June you should have that trade. Yeah, sometimes you're sitting in August, sometimes like November, December before the trade comes out for what was just only 5 issues that long ago, because
it's not like this is a financially lucrative industry, and so there's part of this.
I know that.
There's part of it's finances, part of it's
there's a
part
lot.
of it's how does it do. Here's the deal: I have not seen a comic book come out in years that has not had a trade come out.
No,
And so
I don't
it's
see why
not-
you would.
this is
And
like
it's funny
waiting
because I
for the
still get that
trade.
question from people that will say, "Do you think there'll be a trade?"
There's gonna be a
Yes,
trade.
there's no
How
reason at
quickly
this
it comes
point that we
out-
would publish it and not make a trade because as far as the business sense of it goes, it's another opportunity to sell that product that we
There
made.
may not be 5,000 copies of it made, but there's something.
Right,
to be
it's going to
out
come
there.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, it will
So-
absolutely.
So it's interesting. It was interesting to see how this goes. And this whole diamond issue you're dealing with right now with switching warehouses.
Oh, boy.
We'll see how that goes in the future.
I
but
know
like,
I was going here.
But yeah, having this parody of having the ability of having Lunar and all these different Penguin distributors helps with your shop because you have the opportunity to buy from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a fun year. So Transformers #1 overall.
Yep.
I'll call Feral #2 overall, and Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees #3 overall.
All independent.
All independent.
Yep.
3 different publishers.
Yeah.
Well, Feral and Transformers are both Image, but you have Skybound.
Image Skybound. Yeah.
Image,
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Dark
Yeah,
Horse.
yeah,
So, this episode was brought to you by Galactic Comics and Collectibles
Woo!
at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com or 547 Hammond Street right here in Bangor, Maine. We're so pumped. This is the last episode of 2024 before we go into 2025.
Wow.
We're looking forward to 2025.
Can't
It's
wait.
episode 203.
You're gonna make me watch Shaq soon.
I'm gonna make you watch Steel for Shaquille O'Neal's Steel.
I can tell you, as a child, I thought this doesn't look good. I'm not watching this, and now I gotta watch it at 42.
Yes, we're fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
Who knows? Maybe this will be my favorite movie of the year.
This worked. We're working on this idea of doing this in person. We'll see how it goes. We did some test things tonight. We'll see
Yeah.
how this goes in the future. It'll be fun to do some more in-person things when we do our episodes together, movie reviews, whatever it may be. Maybe we'll do some more countdowns throughout the year too. Like favorite horror comics.
These were fun doing the old countdown stuff.
Yes, there you go.
top
See,
horror that we read this year.
We'll get Jason to sit in with us instead of over there. We'll have him over here.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll get Graham to sit in with us. No, Graham. No. Yes. There you see. Sure.
Yeah. He's always excited. If this
Big
was a
Garrett.
if it was a top 5 scene, Garrett, where are you, Garrett? Garrett, can you step up to the? Oh, that's right. He left.
I will say that I am disappointed in Mainers. They probably stayed home because of the snow.
So I think my wife asked me earlier here. Let me see if I can see this text.
Exactly. It's Maine.
My wife asked, did no one come because of the snow, or did no one come because it was you guys?
Well, that's a good question.
That's
It's
a gray
very good
area.
question. Very relevant question.
That's a gray area.
But yeah, we drank.
Garrett wasn't coming.
That's the Garrett.
Yeah, that was it.
We did
Ah,
drink
Garrett's
some.
not there. I'm not
we did
going.
drink some amazing bicentennial IPA.
Yes, we did.
From Liana Kangas.
Thank you, OBC. Thank you, Liana.
Work on it is beautiful.
Yeah, Liana is a wonderful artist, one of the best in the biz. And yeah, 2025, here we come. You ready to read
Can't
some new
wait.
comics?
I am. Yes. You know what? I like this year, and I liked having the challenge of saying I've got to sit down and read some of the fresh stuff. I can't be reading. Remember, I'm doing the Spider-Man from.
Still doing it?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I feel like when we did this list in 2022, Paul was still reading Spider-Man Omnibus.
Do you have any idea how many omnibus there are?
Like 2 years ago.
You're always going to be reading Spider.
I will be reading the Spider-Man omnibus until I
So,
die, and
here's
it'll
the
be
question.
impressive if I
You
finish
mentioned
it.
reading ongoing stuff. Yes, Paul is reading
Yes, I
ongoing
am.
stuff. It's Spider-Man from 1970 he's now on.
It's his
What?
job. It's your job.
No,
Yeah,
when-
exactly.
When we get to the
I have to do this.
When we do this comic book, comics of the year 2035, Paul will definitely be talking about the current Spider-Man run because that's what we cut up.
Probably not. Probably not.
It'll be the current from right now.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
We actually didn't know if you want to answer. Do you have a comic book of the year for you that came out in this year? For Graham? No.
I'm not sure because I don't read too much current
Yeah. Current stuff. Yeah.
I just get what's cheap and seems interesting.
Yeah.
But from the book club, was Stray Dogs this year?
No, but I'll take it. But no, you're good. I think that to me, I also feel like we used to do in the past, which is what book you read this year that.
Yeah, what was your favorite book you read? Because we had Revival that we both asked ourselves,
Yeah.
how did we not read this before?
So that would be
yeah,
considered.
yeah,
Trace
yeah.
rather
What
than-
would be your
yeah.
so Stray Dogs goes as the top.
Will you read
book you've
Feral?
read?
No, I've not read it.
Will you read it though because you like Stray Dogs?
Potentially.
You should. You should.
Feral might very well make our
And it's
book club
ongoing.
book.
You should.
For all the
Yeah.
reasons that you like Stray Dogs, you like Feral.
And it's different, and that's what's cool about it. It's not like a continuation, so that's what's cool about it.
Oh,
But
did Geiger come out this year?
Geiger's
Geiger, the
reboot.
continuation series did, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it counts, but yeah.
Well, we kind of missed that not having any Ghost Machine stuff because that was a
I can't
huge
get it,
book
but
here.
I can't get into it.
Really? So I haven't.
Honestly, you know what my pick would be? Red Coat.
A lot of people like Red Coat.
Red Coat's phenomenal.
I have a couple of our poll list members that Red Coat's the only one from the Ghost Machine universe are doing.
It's red, and it's so
but
crazy. It's just so stupid.
I love the initial Geiger run
Initial
stuff
Geiger
for
run
sure.
was good,
It's
but-
amazing, but I actually haven't even started the Ghost Machine stuff.
well, Jeff
yet.
Johns is not a very good writer, so.
Oh, come on. Here we go again. Jesus.
Well, it's mostly because he wrote DC. But that's a.
Some people's kids. And yet I have no DC on my list and you do. Something's
Blue
wrong
Beetle,
in the
man.
world.
Blue Beetle, man.
Something is wrong with
It's because
the
you're
world.
racist. So here we go.
Wow.
That went dark.
Yeah, that took a turn.
Hey, at least we finished this episode saying everybody's names right, and
Yeah. Yeah.
don't go back and listen to episode 99.
The top episode. How is that
actually,
not the number
here's
one
the deal.
episode
We're-
of the Case
we're
of Dice
episode
podcast?
203,
Whoa.
right?
Yeah.
This is 203. Episode 99 was the last time we drank on an episode together.
Hey, we're back at it, and
104 episodes.
we are way more sober
So-
this time than we were last.
Oh my god, yes.
Yes.
I'm actually gonna drive home tonight, whereas that would not have driven
99 was. We shouldn't have been walking. I don't
so
think.
that's fine. It's fine. So yeah, it's comics of the year.
Hell yeah.
Do you want to read a quick rundown, or do you want to just? End
Yeah,
it?
I think they got
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Visit us at capesandtights.com.
Oh yes.
Comicsandcollectibles.com.
Right here.